I could have lunch. But if we roll out of here, we could go have an early lunch if you don't mind.
Hello and welcome to Dateline New Haven's Pundit Friday, where we look at the behind the headlines of the stories that make the Elm City tick. Nothing ticks better than Pundit Friday. It's about to begin the #1 pundits in the media universe.
Well, let me know.
Like the dairy-free goddess of our grassroots operation, Babs Rawls-Ivy, host of Love Babs, Love Talk, and editor of the Inner City News.
I love my jobs.
And your jobs love you. We got the Flyers News hunter-gatherer, Sutter Fleet Street, the Gondition specialist, New Haven Independent, who's everywhere at all times, Markeisha Ricks.
Happy Black History Month.
Oh, I didn't have you right, Mike.
Wakanda forever.
Happy. Said Happy Black History Month. So this is the month when we recognize that African Americans had something to do with the country.
Mm-hmm. That we built this joint. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But so we only have the clock's ticking. We have 28 days, shortest month.
Actually, Black History Month starts with Martin Luther King's birthday. In case y'all didn't notice.
Okay. Nora
we
Reeves
celebrating.
And Joe Ugly is in Paris, so he's not here.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Drost.
I have such good news for him today too.
What's that?
It's about the Blake Hotel. It's not booked up for graduation, and Randy Salvatore said give him a call.
Whoa!
He said, no, you tell him I said we're not booked for graduation.
Oh, you
now,
are.
Now I've told the entire world, and you're in Paris, and you cannot do this over the internet. You need to call the hotel.
Wow.
So you got to erase all these people who heard us say that.
Norma Rodriguez is off this week looking for the Pachinches, and we got Harry Drost, the bravest man in New Haven, will be here in a minute. He's that blank spot you see if you're watching the video. It will be filled with Harry Drost. That's welcome, everybody. So, big news this morning.
What?
Some of which we're not going to discuss yet, but some of which we are going to discuss, which is that the tennis tournament is finally put to, I would say, its mercy killing laid to rest, right? We're losing the tennis tournament, right?
We are.
What's the news, Markeisha?
Oh.
It looks like there will be no women's tennis tournament in August or ever. Or at least not here in Connecticut.
What happened? Where's it going?
It's going to China, apparently.
Well, can the mayor still have
so,
Women's Day over there?
Look, she can do whatever she wants over there. She can do a tap dance and a rain dance because she's going to need to get somebody in there.
They're moving the tennis tournament to China.
Or it looks like, just from my cursory quick glancing at the press release that went out this morning, is that another organization they sold the rights to host that event, and so that event has been purchased by someone else and is going to be hosted in China.
What's going to happen here? They're going to have another event?
I don't know.
What did the release say?
It didn't say anything about that. They're like
they're going to bring Ann Worcester to China?
No, she has nothing to do with that. Like the Connecticut, whoever the association that owns the Connecticut Tennis Open, they've sold the rights to host that event.
Well,
so the event itself goes to somewhere else.
We just spent all that state money. First, we spent $18 million. I think up to 20 to build the stadium. And then we spent all that money in the last few years to have the state take over the tournament. What happened?
They ain't put that in the press release.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
So what do you think about this, folks?
The tennis tournament. I come to it from the days of Pilot Pen, right? So
that's when it started in the early 90s.
Yeah, so I've been with this thing. It's been the better part of my life with this tournament, and so I'm a little taken aback because I don't know. I just kind of like the idea of us having some kind of professional team sport.
Yeah, sports doesn't seem to work here anymore.
It doesn't.
Arts really does. Intellectual stuff does. Fun restaurants and visual
art.
But
I never think that sports ever really had a good foothold in the New England beyond.
Well, the Patriots.
Well, but that's a rare
that's a Super
animal.
Bowl. It's also Massachusetts.
So what do you
even
think
when we
that's
had a
about,
hockey
Babs?
team,
Yeah, that never happened here. They kept going out of business.
we had the remember the Nighthawks, right?
A whole
And
bunch of times.
we have a semi-professional soccer team now, but even they've taken the season off or something like that.
They have? Because
I saw some press stuff that said that they were like kind of out of pause.
Well, Yale sports in its day did well, but people aren't going to Yale sports anymore either, except for hockey.
And so, I mean, when you go past the Mason-Dixon line, sports is everything. Everything from the South to the Midwest, sports is everything.
So what do you think that is? So interesting what you say, Babs. What do you think it is about New England?
I think I really think it's a cultural thing. I think because we are not wedded to high school sports the way that Southern and Midwest school states are.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't grow up. I mean, I grew up playing basketball like everybody else, but it was not the same sort of.
Now, the tennis was always an idea that we were going to get all these rich people from Fairfield County to come here, and it was really always for people with blonde hair, right? And they,
yeah,
and it never made it, and it was always a lot of public subsidy for it.
yeah.
And it was kind of fun. I mean, I'm not a tennis fan, but I'd go once, at night with my wife every year when it's really coming to get the sun goes down. It's very sweet. But it never caught. And I'm wondering, so should we finally, because John DeStefano, who's mayor, made that decision. He said, what's working in New Haven is this exciting art scene, this cultural scene, the restaurant scene.
We need a great outdoor concert
And he said, we
venue.
can't keep doing
Yeah,
corporate welfare for sports. So do you think that's the answer? Because now I live in Westville, a few blocks from that stadium. And when a few times in the early years, they did concerts, which I thought was great. Few people don't want the traffic. I say, that's ridiculous. Then go move to, Durham. Although they have the Durham Fair there. but what do you think? Do we all agree that we should turn this into a great concert venue?
Yeah, I think we should. We need an outdoor space. Seriously. And if we only make money on it.
We have the green.
I know, but the green, I think you're limited in terms of what you can do on the green.
And it's not either or. There's certain concerts you want to charge.
And yes, there are certain concerts you want to charge, and you want to have real seating for, and public restrooms.
And the views at the tennis center are perfect.
And you could have food trucks, and you could have food.
I saw two concerts at that stadium, and they were great. I saw Mark Cohn, and I think, was it Bonnie Raitt? I don't remember.
Earth, Wind, and Fire would kill there.
Oh, God, they
What?
would. You think
anybody would kill there? Anybody.
We almost got Aretha.
I know.
What do you think, Harry? What do you think about the demise of the tennis tournament? Is this going to crush you and change your life?
Well, I think I want to throw my vote for Gladys Knight.
Yeah. She's leaving. Shows you how old we all are.
She better be leaving on that midnight train to Georgia.
And it better be with the Pips, That's all I got to say.
And she better not sing the anthem.
I haven't
I'll
been
say
to see
Lizzo.
a tennis match since
She should
the
go
Williams
sing Lift Every Voice and
sisters.
sing.
Since the Williams sisters stopped going, I haven't been to see.
And I wonder if that's the case for a lot of people.
That's actually a good point. When the Williams sisters played, do you remember how much that mattered to black New Haveners?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not black, and I was into it too. That's the only time I ever cared about who won a match. But it really was something special for black New Haveners when the Williams sisters played here. And before that, there was a man, right? Washington. What was his name? Remember John Daniels, the mayor, was so excited about him.
Malavia, Washington.
Yeah.
I loved him too. But I like James Blake too.
James Blake, that's what I was thinking.
And the tournament did make outreach to New Haven. They brought kids from the city of all races.
But I think as they started to have more
here.
of the up and coming folk who were becoming names in tennis, and if you're not a follower of tennis and you only know the bigger names, it's just less.
But I also believe that Fairfield County and the shoreline are not our salvation. I think if one thing we've learned the last 20 years, it's not convincing rich people who'd rather live somewhere else to come spend their money here, because they'd come in and out to that tennis stadium, but they weren't spending money here.
No.
But what really
And where would they spend money though? Because the tennis center is out.
But
So
even
it's not like they could
downtown,
come
those
into
stores that never
town.
last in Broadway. There with Bruce Alexander Yale, he always wanted to have all the the dyed blonde people with a lot of big credit cards from Shoreline coming. But I think that we've shown in New Haven that New Haven can make New Haven succeed.
Yeah.
We have a revival based on what's here that's different from suburbs, and people want to live here. It's the only place in Connecticut people really want to move to if you're single or you don't have kids, you're retired.
Because you damn sure don't want to be in boring
It's fun,
Hartford.
it's interesting. It's not the crime rate's gone down. I mean, it's the city that's happening.
Yeah.
And
now we got all these high-end apartments coming.
So why don't we
people
just get
can-
over this thing of that we have to pretend that we're going to have to appeal to people who really aren't part of our
I'm
community.
sorry. Some of us have already crossed that bridge.
Yeah, I know. Some of us did 20
Some of
years
us
ago. We argued about this when
haven't
they built the
abridged
But as
stadium.
far.
someone who is keenly thinking about, we've made so much development, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point today. In downtown, we need attractions out in neighborhoods, because I think yes, people in neighborhoods, go to certain things in their neighborhood, but we need attractions in neighborhoods, things that kind of put jobs in neighborhoods, so everybody doesn't have to go work
Well, I
downtown,
was
just like
thinking of
everybody
Dixwell
has to go
Plaza.
work in the suburbs. I need an attraction, things for people to come continuously into our neighborhood to see how cool our neighborhoods
I always
are.
wanted to see Dixwell Plaza have some kind of big entertainment
I
venue.
want to see New Hallville have something really cool happen.
Yeah, and Kim Harris is working on that, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think with Comcast and what they're trying to do with that corridor, and then Titus around the corner on Henry Street.
And they're also thinking Dixwell Plaza. They have some
But
projects
that's what I
there for a
mean.
media
So
center.
I think it's going to be.
It's happening.
I think it's going to
Dixwell's
happen. And I
happening,
think in the next 2 to 5 years, we're going to see that community change. and you know, you're gonna have conversations about, you know, who gets to call a community, who gets to stay, who can afford to live there. I mean, it's going to be this conversation.
That's a luxury conversation.
Yeah.
In the sense of not high price, meaning we're lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People want to be doing stuff here now in New Haven, and it's happening.
And there's going to be casualties
But it's not
to
tennis.
that.
It's not tennis.
No, it's not tennis.
But it is Pundit Friday here on WNHH FM 103.5 live stream newhaven.org, your home for community radio. And you know, so much happening in town. Last night, Markeisha Ricks, while we were all huddled at home keeping warm, she was running around out in the cold.
know!
Where there
so
were
much fun.
overflow crowd for the opening of the cocktail museum inside Ordinary. Overflow, people were waiting to get their chance to get in.
But
and get
not being
served.
dangerous.
Why not? What were they
Because
doing?
they were being very strict about letting people, like, because they didn't want to overcrowd and get in trouble with the fire marshal.
So they're opening a cocktail museum at the spot Ordinary across from the
It
Green.
is open.
And they had people waiting outside till their turn to come in. How'd they keep warm outside? Was there whiskey?
Well, they weren't outside. They were in the little foyer because there's a foyer before you can actually go into Ordinary Bar. We know about it because we hang out at Ordinary quite a bit. And it's just enough to like hold. So because they were all standing there together and there was a little teeny tiny heater in there, they were all huddled together. And so they kept warm by being huddled together, listening to historian Colin Kaplan, spelled Kaplan, CA. See, I'm messing it up. His mother called me on that too.
It's a good thing his mom reads the
CAPLAN.
news. Yeah.
And we're glad his mom reads the story. Sorry, Mom. But he's in there regaling people with a cocktail in hand with like history of cocktails in New Haven.
And that's so
was
New Haven.
So New
like
Haven.
that's a New Haven kind of
And
So
I love
New
that guy's
Haven.
history because
So
he'll tell you
great.
about buildings, like who owned them in 100 years
Exactly.
ago. Yeah.
And he told us all about this guy named Jerry Thomas, who is like the father of American cocktails, and he apparently is from here.
Yeah, see.
I loved
New
everything
Haven.
about it.
I see that light in Babs' ideas.
Oh,
and she
I
understands
love it. I
So
do.
New Haven,
I
and
do.
then on top of that, so we're all standing out there listening. People are kind of popping in, like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And all of a sudden, you know, Tim comes out with a bottle of whiskey, and he's like, "Yeah, all of that's great, but I'm sure you guys are cold, so have a little whiskey."
Did
So
they bring
he's pouring
anything to
little
eat,
bits
too?
of
'Cause
whiskey,
they got some
and
good food
then Jason Sobozinski brings out grilled cheese. He brings out pigs in a blanket. Like I think people in the foyer were having just as good of a time as the people inside the bar. Like it was fantastic.
And if you want to really feel like you were there without getting cold, check out the Independent today.
I will.
Markeisha Ricks has fantastic
I was
photos
so
of that
close to
night.
putting on clothes and going down
because I
there.
was texting this
But that's
spot, I
not
was
where
like,
you- did you
come
start-
here, come here.
Did you start? Was that all
I
going on
didn't
last night?
start at Ordinary though.
anything else
I
going on in
ended
Haven?
my night at Ordinary, even though the story is not written that way. But I started my night at the Blake Hotel, which
is
going to
probably be changed to the Babs Hotel.
No,
because-
it's gonna. You know what? When I venture into this online dating business, that's where my dates are gonna be met at. Because if somebody's crazy, I can just go to the front desk and say, "Can you call the cops?"
yeah.
It's gonna be a great place for first dates, morning coffee, everything. But last night it was swinging. They
So
had
that's
like
the new luxury boutique
the
hotel.
new luxury boutique
High and
hotel
George
at High and
Streets.
George Street, and it was swinging last night. There were hundreds of people in there, and people were in the bar, like they were in the restaurant.
I know.
and it
I
was
followed them on the
food,
Instagram, and I texted them.
It was just wonderful.
I mean, I hit them up on Instagram. And I said, "So, will there be vegan fare there?" And they said, "Yes, Babs, come through." I was like, "Oh, all right."
There
So
was
yes.
vegan fare?
They will have.
there will
vegan.
have vegan fare.
Then I'll meet you there.
Yes.
Hey,
You and I,
and
it's a
that's
date.
exactly what the
It's a date.
owners want. They want you to meet there. They want you to meet your friends there. They want you to come hang out there on
Okay.
all of their cute sofas
New
and
Haven's
things.
first Michelin star chef,
Yes.
which I'm acting like I know what that is, but I just learned it when I did this
That
story.
is our resident
It's
chef.
like having a
She'll
Pulitzer
tell you what
Prize, a
that
Nobel
is.
Prize
Yes,
as a cook.
it is.
And he's this like Tim, what's the name again?
Matt Lambert.
He's this down to earth guy from New
So
Zealand.
cool.
Even though he did a big shot restaurant in New York. Did you meet him last night?
He was so busy.
You got
like
his photo.
he's like spinning ham on and shaving ham and like stopping to take selfies with people. But I was able to get a picture of him. But he was super gracious, super nice, and just working like a one arm.
So what do you think, Harry? You going to be hitting the Blake?
No, but the Michelin thing is interesting. Is he cooking on tires?
Is he cooking on tires? No, he's not, Harry.
Michelin chef. First time I'm hearing about that. I've never heard that.
Oh, the Michelin
is
thing
it?
is big.
What
Like
is
she
the
said,
Michelin?
it's like the Nobel Peace Prize of cooking.
Yeah. yeah. It's like, but usually you meet that's all very snooty people. This guy's like
He's
just
not
a regular
snooty.
guy.
Like, he's
cool. I
super
like that.
down to
I hung
earth.
out with him a week ago. Yeah.
Mm.
Speaking of like
Tattoos and everything. Y'all would actually,
now, speaking of people who
Compare
might not be
tattoos.
always hanging out at the Blake are firefighters. Some of them will.
they might. Yeah.
They might.
But you know, the story of New Haven's firefighters was a national story 10 years ago. when the rules for affirmative action in this country changed because of a Supreme Court case brought by white New Haven firefighters plus one Latino out of 20. And they brought a case called Ritchie versus DeStefano. Frank Ritchie, firefighter. John DeStefano was the mayor. And New Haven had done what all the country did as an understanding of how Title VII, I believe it is, of the Civil Rights Act works. That if you give a test, and there are a lot of black people taking tests, but nobody scores enough to be promoted, although in this case it turned out they were promoted, just not in the first string. There's a lot of nuance in this case. Then you're supposed to take it over because you say that because of historical discrimination, other factors, that tells you there's something wrong, and we want to have, it's more equal opportunity if you look at how you do these tests and make sure that there's some racial balance. But white firefighters said, we studied so hard, and the one Latino out of 20, we studied so hard, we played by the rules, the test was fair, and we just did better. And by the way, and this is the part that was left out at the time, African Americans did do well. They just didn't go at the very top. And in fact, today, 10 years later, we have a lot of African Americans in charge because of that test. But in any case, it went to Supreme Court, which had just turned more conservative. So at the lower court levels, they said, we're throwing out your lawsuits is the way we do it in America. And now Republican conservatives are on the bench. As a majority, they said, we're changing the rules now. You can't do that. You got to show more proof that there really was something wrong with that test. 10 years, now, that ripped up the department and all this discussion in the country. But here made people famous. Frank Ritchie was testifying in Washington against Sonia Sotomayor's because she'd won lower court judges, her nomination to the Supreme Court. But 10 years later, it's a play. It's a play that's just opening at Yale Rep, in which, a liberal, white, elite type person wrote it and hung out with these firefighters and got along with them. Frank Ritchie was so funny. He said, I feel like when I go to this play, I'm going to be like Brett Kavanaugh going to Saturday Night Live. You'll be making fun of me. And she said, the opposite happened. I hung with these people, and I have my own view of the world. But this is a very nuanced case, and there were sincere people on both sides, and these are tough questions for America. And she turned into a place, she said, that's more about how do we talk about race now in America? Can we talk across not just race, but class? She said, all these elite white liberals like at Yale Law School were on the side of the black working class firefighters, but these are white liberals who in their old world have white people running everything, and they're always in rooms. It's all white people making decisions. And then you have the white working class on the other side. She said this was a foreshadowing of the Trump election. And she came out of this saying, it's hard to talk about this stuff and see each other's humanity, but that it can happen. That even though everything you're reading now about Trump, America divided, blue versus red, she really believes coming out of this that we can see each other as people, talk about stuff that's tough about not just what race you are, but how wealthy or elite you are, and see where we're both coming from and find common ground. That's a tall order for a play. I haven't seen it yet. What do you folks think? What do you think about Ritchie versus Stefano?
I think it's going to be interesting. From reading your story, I thought it seemed like it'd be an interesting thing because I didn't live here during that time or whatever. So I'd be interested to see it. And it sounds like he's not going to come across as a Brett Kavanaugh on Saturday Night Live. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a very funny play at all.
No. That was a funny SNL.
Well, I might actually have to skip that during the joy of Black History Month. Sorry, girl.
You might be hitting the blink.
I have to wait till Women's History Month to see that.
Babs, what do you think about Ritchie versus Stefano back in the day?
Listen, I think white people have to have a come to Jesus moment about race in America.
Because black people are having this conversation all the time.
We've been having this. We had this conversation on the slave ships coming over. So I'm not going to. I don't feel like we need to be a part of this conversation anymore. I think white people need to have this conversation with themselves.
Interesting.
And come to and own their part in all of this.
And I
especially
think you can look at this,
especially if it's not a
elite,
comedy.
It's not elite white people. I mean, I have these conversations I have to check white people all the time at the level that I'm at. I'm not elite, but I have white friends who are not elite, but they are white people, and they come with a different kind of thing, and I have to check them on basic-ish all the time. Don't touch my hair. Don't all these things, and you have to remind them. When they talk about education, when they talk about housing, when they talk about why can't black people, blah, blah, blah. I was like, the playing field for us has never been level. We've never had access. It was just a few years ago that we've got the right to read and write. We just got the right to be in neighborhoods. We just got the right to vote, just got the right. So, you're measuring us from a lens through which you are looking through. And you're not standing on this side at all. And you want to undo and wash away and explain away history.
And what do you think, Harry? You going to go to the play after the night at the Blake?
No.
After a tennis tournament?
You're just not going to get involved in any New Haven culture, are you?
No. No,
Why
but
you live in Waterbury.
Did you follow Richie versus DeStefano? Did you have thoughts
I
about
did.
that? What was your take on that, Harry?
I did, and my I wanted to comment on what Babs just said. She's saying that white people should talk amongst themselves, but the problem is that unless the both sides come together in the middle, nothing's ever going to get resolved, and that's the problem. People are just talking to themselves.
You know what I love about following a fire department? So after we covered Richie with DeStefano, all these big ideas about race and who's on what side, and fire departments have the white faction, Latino, black. When you follow the fire department, you realize that you never know who's on whose side each day.
Oh God. Mm-mm.
So the next day, all of a sudden, I get a call. Some white firefighters up to something to get some people, but the black firefighters are with them, and they're against some other people in the union who are white.
Yeah.
And then right after that case, Frank Ritchie and the white firefighters endorsed John DeStefano for re-election. And you just never know who's getting who. That on the day-to-day, John Austin talked about that. He's the fire chief. He said, there's real race concerns in fire departments, but on the other hand, firehouses are the one place where people of all races live together. You live in a firehouse.
Eat each other's
You
food.
have 14-hour shifts. You cook for each other. You sleep in the same place, and that you really have to deal with each other. That it might not be pretty.
And I think there are
always, but
other
that
things
it's-
like that, like the militaries like that,
Yeah.
the police departments like that. Like you really become, like if you're stuck with somebody, if any kind of preconceived notions you come to a thing with, and I think, we all have our prejudices and biases, those things either get affirmed or challenged as you have to interact with people. And that literally is probably one of the bigger problems of America, is that there are, for white people, there are whole swaths of them, because of the way things have been set up in this country, who can not come into contact with black or brown folk ever if they don't want to, like in their entire lifetime. And so like the fact that you can live in a place where no black people or no brown people feel welcome in certain contexts, even though the laws no longer say, we can't sell houses to these people, even though some of the laws do still say that, let's be clear. Like, that they never have to come in contact, so they never have to challenge their views about a particular person. I interact with white people all the time. I have all my life. I've never lived in an all-black situation, except for, and not even when I was at an HBCU, because all my professors weren't black. Like, that's just the life of someone who is black or brown. I will say, for this play, to Babs's point, is that this is white people having that conversation. This is a product of a white woman's...
I mean, two of the characters are black out of the four, but
the characters are black. So a white woman made this play. A white woman decided to delve into this through this play. So in my mind, this is a white woman having this conversation. She didn't do this in tandem with someone African American.
I think the director might be, but I'm not sure.
But
I
again,
see
it's
your
her
point. I
script.
see your point.
It's her vision for whatever that's happening. And I'm not saying that
Plus,
to be
as you point out, it might not
derogatory.
be a
I'm
comedy
saying
either,
that
like SNL.
this is her.
Well, that's the problem, that there's the lines are so clearly drawn, right? And there's many things we can't talk about. You say, let's have this conversation, but do you really want to hear my side of the conversation? And if I express a certain feeling, am I racist for it in your eyes? So it's a very difficult thing. I don't think we're ready to deal with racism these days.
I think we're not
close.
operating on the same definitions, because what black people, not all black or brown people, think is racist, some people are like, that's clearly racist.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's just...
And if you mention racism to somebody white, like their hair catches fire, and you're like, calm down. Let me explain to you what that means.
We're very defensive.
And I'm like, I didn't say you are a Klan card-carrying member of the Klan, but you might be engaged in racist ideas. But people aren't. They're having that conversation at 100 and not at like 10.
It's given we all are.
But everybody, not just white people.
I'm not
right?
racist.
So that's the problem. That
I don't like white people, but I'm not racist.
Wait
a minute, Babs.
Well, you don't like the race, but you like the individual.
That's all right.
when you decide that one side is
Don't
wrong,
hate me, I'm
absolutely
sorry.
wrong, you can never have a conversation.
So like the
about
way you see Obama.
it. The way I see Obama.
You think he's wrong about everything.
Now, see, that's
Harry,
so
you
sim-
just tripped and fell into
no,
your
I
own
didn't.
point.
No, I didn't, because what he's doing is he just did what
What you're
Democrats
doing is
normally do.
focusing
What
on the
you do.
individual
No, what
and not
Democrats,
engaging
what
in the
Democrats
conversation.
normally do. I have no problem with Obama as an individual, as a human being. Do I have a problem with all of his policies? Yes. Now, you may have a different problem with Obama that you won't see. I don't have to. You see, this is the thing about racism.
I'm just pulling your leg.
No, but this is the thing about racism. But Paul, people believe that. That's the thing. People clearly believe
know I don't
something like
think
that.
that. You know I don't.
Because you're against Obama, you have to be racist.
I didn't say
And
that.
that's such. But look, I hear it all the time, and that's such ignorance.
All right.
And the thing is that you could go to all the minority groups, and you'll have clear lines or walls like Trump wants to build between minority groups. There's racism between minority groups, and this is why we will never get to the root of what really racism is.
But
I'm sorry, we do know what the root of racism is. So I'm not going to sit here and hear that because
White people.
that's
White supremacy. But okay, we're not having that conversation.
See,
though.
we're not going to have this conversation because
race
didn't
what you're
start
talking
in
about
America.
in terms of
Racism didn't start in America.
and what you're
Okay,
talking.
America's
it did not.
a baby. It's less than 300 years old.
And white people
Racism
didn't
not
start in
America.
either. So, like, there's a wonderful book I'd like to read called
the
"Stamp
point.
from the Beginning." I'll get it for you.
That's the point.
All right, and we'll remind you that you're listening to Pundit Friday.
Also, anti-black racism is real, but there we go. And that's what's happening
Of course,
between
that's
different groups. But
Anti
okay.
everything.
No,
It's
anti-specifically black folks. 'Cause
Anti-Hispanic, anti-white.
but
Everything is racist.
Most folks in other groups know that it's better to be anything but black.
black.
Happy Black History Month. Yeah, that one's
yeah.
free.
On Pundit Friday, one of the
On
Friday
Pundit
from
Friday.
Live to
Dream.
newheadindependent.org.
I
What
do
about
too,
Black History
Harry.
Month? We talked about it very fast. We made sort of like clever statements in passing. But what about Black History Month? We've had it a long time. We have all these great events for a month, and there's always the criticism, why is it only 1 month? In Hamden last week, which now has a minority student population in their schools, they're saying hardly any black teachers. The curriculum is only this 1 month in February. What
I
are
think
your
the
feelings
older
about
I
Black
get,
History
the
Month?
more I embrace Black History Month. It's an exciting time for me. I'm very excited to put on my head wrap and be as black as possible and celebrate whatever you think that means, good or bad.
Tell me about that. As you get older, so is that true when you were younger?
When I was younger, like, we didn't necessarily do anything specifically, at least not in my household for Black History Month. But it's because it's Black History Month every day at my house when I was growing up. There are black books because my parents made sure that and not just books about Martin Luther King, but books about Malcolm X. And I know we have people on our side who's like, well, people want to celebrate Martin Luther King. What about Malcolm X? No, black people celebrate Malcolm X. Let's be clear. Other people, like, as a wider audience, and as we think about other people celebrating Black History Month, we don't celebrate Malcolm X as a country because that scares white people. Like, that's why we don't celebrate Malcolm X. But black folk, brown folks celebrate Malcolm X.
Babs, Black History Month? Like, you edited a newspaper,
I wrote a newspaper
African-American
that's
newspaper,
black.
12 months.
I mean,
And
But
so,
how
but
do you
it
feel
doesn't
about
matter
all the
to
effort
me
and all the
that for
events?
28 days,
I just think
it's
Black History Month is for white people to step in, to lean in.
And I'm taking that back. It's for me as a black person to be blacker, like to just enjoy
I
myself.
feel blacker every day. This is not just February.
But in a time where, again, anti-black racism is very much prevalent,
tell you
very
what
much
I
in
do
our
like.
face.
I tell you what I like
celebrating.
about Black history. The favorite thing about Black history is that non-traditional places will sort of create opportunities to have blacker things. Like Yale will have black speakers come more than they normally would have come. Schools will step up doing blacker things. So I like that aspect of it. So I can get my fill of things that I ordinarily wouldn't, like I wouldn't get in November or December, but I'll get it all in February. So there's a commitment to.
So it's Black History Month at Amistad High School because they have a black acting principal now. Samuel Ross Lee said that's evil. They made her interim to put a face on their racial problems. They say we're trying to deal with the problems.
So
put
why
someone
don't
of
they-
color in charge.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I'm not messing with them no more.
Okay. Police
Seriously.
unions, which have traditionally been seen as white enclaves.
If she wants a job, though, you know what? Common Ground is hiring an executive director. So if she really wants to,
to stay at a job.
If she want to
be
work
permanent.
at a school that really is about it, send her resume over to Common Ground.
Florencio Cotto is going to be the first non-white president of the New Haven Police Union as of Saturday. Craig Miller retired after 20 years.
He's filling out his term.
Florencio Cotto.
Is that Junior?
His father, I forget his name, but his uncle was a police officer, high ranking. His cousin is Jamel Cotto, and he grew up in New Haven. And Craig Miller is retiring as of Saturday, and he's gonna. I think, and it's true that the executive board of that union has for years had people of color on it, but I think that's a milestone in terms of how
Is he
that
just
union was
filling out
seen.
the term, or will he be president?
He is filling out the term. My hunch is he'll still be the president. It was a 5-1 vote for him to fill out the term, but that's a very good question. He has us only until May. And then they have a new, was it March or May? I forget. I'll have to look at the article. It's in the Independent. But that's first.
Okay.
We're still, look, all these years later, we still got having first.
Okay, now here's the big color question that's roiling Fairhaven. The
Imagine
Grand
that.
Avenue Bridge
America.
is being rebuilt for $25 million. It's an historic bridge. It's always been black. Some people want it to be green. Some people want it to be lit up or not. And there's a thought to maybe make it gray, which made the neighborhood crazy. They say gray bridges are
Gray.
ugly and deadly. They say it will be traumatic.
Can we get Karen Ponzio's husband to light it?
That'd be fun.
He lights the other bridge, the Q Bridge. He's
Yeah.
responsible for those lights.
Any
We
thoughts
should
on the
light it.
color of the bridge?
Ooh, red, black, and green.
Right. Any thoughts first? So Justin Elliker is running for mayor again against Tony Hart. Last time he had a white campaign manager in his 20s. He just named a campaign manager of color named Gage Frank. He's from Bridgeport. He grew up in Bridgeport. He in his 20s.
Bridgeport's pretty black.
He says, I'm a generational change person, and he has worked on campaigns there for candidates of color and not of color. He revived the Young Democrats. He's 27 years old. Any thoughts on that? All right.
All right.
Any
Bad shrugged.
any predictions for Monday night is the State of the City address from Mayor Tony Hart. Any predictions that has it? What she's going to say, what needs to be said, the state of our city.
She got a lot on her plate.
She got a lot. Listen.
She got a lot on her plate.
Well, I mean, I will say this: she got no beef with the fire department right now, right? Like they,
Everybody at the fire department's happy
yeah.
right now.
See, right now,
Looks like-
because historically,
It's been the fire department.
yes, but now it's like the police and board of ed.
Yeah.
She got a lot on her plate. I wonder how she can strike a tone that says, like, I know there's some issues, but there are really some good things happening in the city.
Florencio Cotto is Florencio Cotto Jr. because his father, the late Florencio Cotto, was a firefighter, and I grew up with them. So
That
that's
name
when you
sounded familiar.
so when you said Florencio, it freaked me out because I was like, "What? He passed away?" But it's Florencio Jr.
All right.
I went to school with his mother and his father. So
Tony should have a communications director carry a boombox with theme music, right?
Lizzo can be our
Watch
theme
me,
music.
right?
Yes.
Like Basby had. Watch me.
I got
I
it.
got it.
I like it. Oh, and he should have the cape. So she should go down
So she
to
can go
one
down.
knee and then jump back up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm here for it. Boy.
I mean, what
Look,
else?
I'm Facebook Live in that, just so you know.
Yes. I mean, what is she? I mean,
Like she has to, remind people, yes, there have been some challenges, but we've had some wins.
yeah, she's got to remind.
Just gotta remind them
She
we've
gotta remind
had
the
some
win.
wins.
It is that she now in an election year she does have a challenge here, but she knows she's been working on this message. These are the best of times in New Haven.
They are.
They
we
are.
have the lowest crime.
we gotta
Everyone's
remind
building,
people of
living. It's
that.
fun. But there are also really big problems with government
There
finances
are.
and with the schools.
Yeah.
So yeah, how
And
do
that
you
school
navigate
thing
that?
is
Is
a
a
mess.
problem.
Oh boy, is that a mess?
man, oh man, oh man. Well, I mean, you know what? This is what I'm happy about. That I don't have any kids in the public school system.
And that you don't serve on a school board.
Woo!
How much is
I
your
think,
heart?
I think Tony's done a good job, by the way.
Oh, I think she's done a great job.
I actually do think she's been doing a great job.
and she's one of the calmest, coolest people
and New
under
Haven
fire.
does have it really good right now. And so
'Cause we
The
had that-
question is, she's got to make people. I mean, I know this is not a campaign speech; it's the state of the city, but
It is a campaign speech.
people have to come across
It's her
like they
first
have
campaign
to
speech.
feel confident listening to her that she can steer us through troubled waters. Like troubled waters are ahead, so that she is the person to steer us through that, and
Yeah.
not whomever is going to run against her.
and say, listen. I know neighborhoods are hurting, but look, we've got some wins. We've got things happening in neighborhoods.
And that those wins are beyond downtown.
Yes,
And
that
if-
they are beyond downtown.
Ife Michelle Guardian said taxes are high AF.
Yeah, but they're not as high as Bridgeport. They're
Or
not
Hampton.
New London. They're
Actually, I
not
had a builder
Hampton.
tell me recently, I'll go to New Haven, but not Bridgeport. I'll build in New Haven. It works.
Yeah.
You-
But I think
you
Ife's
live
talking about
in-
people who own houses.
You live
though.
in
But
New
again,
Haven,
how do you
though.
translate
I
that
don't get
to people who don't believe They're like, but I don't care that they're higher somewhere else. I live here.
That's
But
true.
here's the
How do
thing.
you
And they
make
are
that
higher
But you know
because
how
of
you
our-
translate
we
this
do
is
have
how-
the taxes
This
of
is how
property
you
that makes ours
translate
high.
taxes, because when people say taxes, it gets on my nerves. Because you like your streets cleaned, you like your garbage picked up on a regular, consistent basis, which is what we have. And we have our streets cleaned on a
Yeah.
regular, consistent basis.
But as you
we
know-
have parks that people can enjoy around the clock.
But
we
because
have
But
Also-
people are gonna say to you, but what about those dirt bikers who mess up the
No,
parks
no,
every like
separate thing on Babs is a good point. 55% of our property we can't tax, so to have those services, we have to pay twice as much
Yeah.
as a place
But that's
like
you know what?
Durham
Listen,
or
that's
North
that's
Haven.
then one or two things can happen. You pay them, and you fight to sort of find ways to sort of make this work, or you leave.
Yeah.
But
I'm with you. I
But
think
this
it's a
is the
great
city.
I agree.
So
You're paying more to
I-
get more, and if it's not
Yes.
more, in your opinion, go somewhere else
then
and
you
stop whining.
then move to.
I'm just gonna tell you
West
what people are
Haven.
gonna say, but I
That's
live
big. That's
here
higher
though.
there.
It's higher.
And
Yeah.
I'm not moving. Everywhere is higher. Like we're like 13th in terms
Anyway,
of
effective
tax
taxes.
rate.
So I do
So then
think,
she should say that.
but they are.
She will.
But they are still
People are
high
still gonna
because
say,
of our
"I live
tax and
here."
property. And I think we have to say, yes, we want to make government work well. Yes, we can always do better to get more of our tax money. But on the big question, I think you're right, Babs. We get a lot extra
I'm not
living in New
saying she's
Haven.
wrong. I'm just
It
telling you what people are
costs
gonna say.
more. Yeah, it costs
No,
more.
I know people are gonna
We could
say
do
that.
better, but in some ways, you make a decision that I'd rather pay some more to live in a great city.
I
and
do.
if it's not a great city because I'm not that kind of person, then go live in
I
Durham.
mean, yeah, go live in Durham,
Except when
and,
there's the
and,
fair.
and Northford and all those places where
Because let's be clear, there
Yeah.
are people who seem to have plenty of money who are willing to come here and live in
Yeah.
these expensive apartments who pass on their tax money to us. So.
But what do we do about Venezuela? Do we recognize this new president? Do we try to unseat him? Do we stick
Harry
him
Y'all
in
and
were
I-
the
moving to Venezuela. Tell
Harry
me
and I are
more.
going to handle that.
Oh, yeah, what are you going to do?
And I was being recruited as the minister of communications. So what happened? So what happened?
We're still going.
Plastic. Hamden's voting
Okay.
Monday on whether to ban single-use plastic bags at stores. New Haven is not far behind. We have an ordinance coming up. We had done it before, but then undid it because we said it's too inconvenient. What are your thoughts? Save the environment, not have plastic bags?
I mean, if this is what we can do, I mean, if we could do it, why wouldn't we do it?
Well, some people say it's inconvenient. People like those single.
Or we could put a tax on
It's-
it,
it's
like
not-
they
You know
do
what
in
I-
DC. If you have to have a plastic bag, they charge you for
Well, you know
it.
what's inconvenient? Losing the planet.
No, well, that's the problem. That all of this recycling of plastic, and when
Look, if y'all would just
There's
stop
no
using
way to
K
put
cups,
it.
we might live.
So that's
Okay.
why they're saying don't recycle. Just don't use it in the first place.
It's like don't even create them.
Well,
See, I
even
bring,
buy
I
them.
bring my bags to the grocery store.
I do too when I
Reuse
remember.
them.
yeah, me too. And
Even
But-
though our paper bags, like, why do we go from plastic bags to paper bags anyway?
Yeah, because then you're cutting down the
Because
tree.
at Trader
No.
Joe, oh, that's
I
true.
have the
If we
reu-
made
the
them out of hemp,
reusable
though,
The answer to all things
you can get more
is the
hemp than you
marijuana
can
plant.
out of. You can get more hemp.
There
You
you
can
go.
get more paper out of hemp than you can out of
Harry's with
trees.
you. Harry's
Oh,
with
they-
you.
You know who
sounded-
killed? You know who helped kill the hemp like legalization stuff? Newspapers. That's why we're online.
Is Scores going to get to keep the strip club at the Clock Factory?
Oh my gosh, that's the greatest story ever.
What do you think?
They want to?
They've been in
No,
court.
the people
They're
that
being-
own it don't
They're
want
being
them
evicted.
to.
Most of Clock Factory in Hamble Street is vacant. They're going to turn it into artist apartments. But
Listen,
there's this little part
hashtag
that's
stripper lives matter.
all right.
We're gonna go down there and throw some ones. They have fried calamari. Are you gonna eat that?
Oh,
Well, thank you. All right.
I'm not eating the fried calamari. It's
I never
gross.
get the all you can eat at those stripper clubs, right?
Harry, you're not
I
going to
go, "Ugh."
Blake. You're not going to tennis. Are you going to
Harry's
Scores?
like,
No.
Lysol,
And I'm not going to the
everything.
strip club.
Harry's like, no, thank you. Where is my hazmat suit?
But thank
Exactly.
you for joining us today on Pundit Friday, the best way to end the week here on WNHH FM. Thanks to the best pundits in the business, Babs Rolls, Ivy, Markeisha Ricks, and Harry Drost. Next week, back with Norma Rodriguez-Reyes. Hope Joe Ugly's doing well in Gay Paris. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience, performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. Now we know what it's like to be free. We just got to remember to book our flight. Fly free with us all weekend long here at WNHH, New Haven's home for cozy community radio.